Okay, everyone, this is our fourth presenter tonight for our planning consultant interviews, and we have McKenna and Associates. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Patrick Sloan, and I'm a principal planner with McKenna Associates. And I want to, first of all, thank you for hosting us this evening and allowing us to present to you our proposal. Well, there are several slides in the proposal, and so what we'll do is I'll just go through the highlights here so that we don't go on forever, and I'll just highlight the major portions of the proposal and the PowerPoint slides just so we can move through it, and then that'll leave enough time later for questions and answers since I know it's late. Every community has goals, and our understanding of Northfield Township's goals, based on our review of your master plan, is multiple. The ones that stand out the most is to retain and protect the rural character of the township, and also to allow compatible economic activity. There are a lot of public comments that are addressed in the master plan in terms of wanting some commercial activity in the township. And as some of the other slides will show, some techniques and methods that we've used to kind of bring out the public participation to reflect what the community wants. Next, please. So every community has the goals of becoming a high quality, maintaining high quality, and enhancing the high quality. And so we work with several townships that face much of the same, many of the same issues that Northfield Township does. And in the next few slides, we'll highlight some of our partner townships in the state of Michigan, as well as some projects that we do in those townships to address rural character and balancing that with economic activity. Also, we want to highlight what we do with businesses in terms of responding to their questions and concerns, not just businesses but all applicants. When there are questions about the zoning, we're there as a resource, and we serve as a guide for them. Next slide, please. Thank you. McKenna Associates, we're located in downtown Northville, which is about 17 miles due east of Northfield Township. We have 20 planners and designers. We work in 80 communities across the state of Michigan and throughout the Midwest, about 40 of which are townships. And we work on about 200 projects each year. So we have a depth and a breadth of experience that addresses all manner of township issues. The townships that we represent, they range from high-dense suburban townships down to very low-dense rural townships. And each professional is reviewed periodically to make sure that they're a fit for their community and the projects that they work on, as well as to evaluate, to monitor workflows, so that we make sure that as the work for our communities increases, decreases, we can manage that workflow without getting behind on projects and different hiccups like that. And finally, we've been operating for over 37 years doing planning in Michigan communities. We're primarily we do primarily planning, urban design, landscape architecture. Those are our three main services. So, as I said, my name is Patrick Sloan, and I'm a principal planner. I have over 12 years of planning experience with an emphasis on zoning, ordinances, and creation of new ordinances, as well as ordinance administration. In the proposal, I would be the project manager for Northfield Township. I have years of success in other Michigan townships. Recently, I've worked with Lyon Township, which is adjacent to the northeast of Northfield Township. Also in York Township, which is 3 townships to the south along US 23. With Dexter Township, I've spent over 6 years as their Director of Planning and Zoning from 2006 to 2012. And finally, Van Buren Township, which is in western Wayne County. Currently, we're serving interim director services there. So I've been on site at Van Buren Township about 16 hours per week until a full-time director is hired. So not only are we their planning consultants, but in the interim basis, we're serving as their planning director to make sure that projects are moving forward and that nothing is slipping through the cracks. Also on the team is Sarah Traxler Sarah is also an AICP certified planner. The AICP is the American Institute of Certified Planners. It's a national accreditation through the American Planning Association, and it's obtained by having a combination of work experience, education, passing the test, and more importantly than that, doing continuing education each year. Sarah is a vice president, and she has over 12 years of experience with an emphasis on economic redevelopment and community engagement. Some of the projects that she works on are in Saginaw County, the townships of Buena Vista and Kochville. And a little bit later in the slide presentation, we'll highlight some of the projects going on in Kochville. And then finally, Paul Lippens would be our transportation planning consultant. Paul is a principal planner with the firm. He's also AICP accredited with over 12 years of experience. Paul's emphasis is on complete streets and non-motorized transportation planning. He co-authored the Complete Streets Guide for the City of Chicago, and he's a nationally recognized expert in non-motorized transportation and complete streets. He's also been a speaker for complete streets issues for the Michigan Townships Association and Michigan Association of Planning. Also with our team, with Sarah and Paul and me, our similarities are all three of us, we're all AICP accredited. We all received our Masters of Urban Planning from the University of Michigan, and all three of us grew up in the area. I grew up in Scioto Township, and Paul and Sarah grew up in Ann Arbor. So although I would be the project manager, the team that we're assembling for York Township has local experience, both growing up education experience and then professional experience as well. Our approach is our commitment to the premier community values. Notably, it's remaining a great place to live, play, learn, and work, and also maintaining a status as a readily identifiable and distinctive Michigan township. Our role would generally be to do change management, reviewing standards and systems, and suggesting alternative approaches as they come up, as well as implementing those systems and make sure that the plans and ideas don't just sit on the shelves. If they're good ideas, can be put into practice, we'll help you implement those. Next. Briefly, our fees are in the proposal, so I won't go through them too much. There's a retainer that's proposed, would cover 2 meetings per month, both our preparation, travel, and attendance, and also unlimited telephone consultation. So throughout the month, when there's questions that come up, questions about the ordinance or an applicant, someone like that, we can respond to telephone calls throughout the month. Unlimited consultation, you would have our cards. My cell phone number is on my card, and I tell clients they can call me anytime. For the development reviews that we do everything from major site plans and subdivisions all the way down to land divisions and private roads. We also review landscape plans. We have an in-house landscape architect who's certified with the state of Michigan. And also our reviews include recommendations. So oftentimes we won't give an either-or decision. We'll present the facts, the information, best zoning and planning practices, and then we'll conclude with a recommendation so that you know where we stand in our reviews. For our site plan review, we will ensure compliance with the zoning standards, but we'll also use it as a tool to implement the master plan and assist with zoning administration. We operate with an internal checklist. The checklist not only covers what's in your ordinance, but it also covers other things that reflect best planning practices so that we catch things that might not be in the zoning ordinance but would reflect best practices. For our day-to-day technical services, as I said, we would do telephone advice and consultation, coordinating meetings. Before the Planning Commission meeting, we would confer with Township Administration or the Planning Commission to go over the agenda, any items coming up. And as always, we can be reached anytime in between meetings. We use the latest technology to graphically present our ideas, the community's ideas, and what the community's vision is. So those are just a few programs that we use. Most of our planners are proficient in ArcGIS, so it isn't just one person. There are several that use that technology. In addition, we also have a graphic designer that's full-time on staff. So what we do is when we create some things, whether they're images or graphics in GIS or some other program, she can refine those and she can create graphics from scratch. So communication is a vitally important tool for any community, and so that's why we have a full-time graphics artist on staff. These are a list of our professional certifications, and I'll do you the pleasure of not going through each one. We're AICP certified. We have 9 AICP planners on staff. And some of the other ones in the bottom left, FBC stands for Form-Based Code. I'm certified in Form-Based Code through the Form-Based Code Institute, and we also have certified placemakers in the bottom right corner. I'm a certified placemaker with the state of Michigan. Next. Going back to graphic communication, these are just a couple examples of what our graphic design artist has prepared for communities that we work with. And the communication is critical because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and if we can put a picture instead of a big body of text, it will bring in the reviewer or the listener, and it will engage in more conversation than just having someone read a paragraph and wonder what it was about. So we spend a lot of time in graphic images because it's such a vital communication tool, and we have our full-time graphic artists on staff to do just that for the communities that we work with. I won't list every guarantee here that's on the slide. It's on the slide there and also in our proposal. But I will emphasize a few things. Number one is that a 24-hour response, typically if we get an email or a voicemail, something like that, we respond within 24 hours. So, if there's a message, we're not in the office, we'll be able to get back to you. And then also, we uphold the AICP Code of Ethics, and we also have court-tested planners and landscape architects. I'm certified as a expert witness with Washtenaw County District Court in my time in Dexter Township. So we have planners in addition to myself that are familiar to going to court and testifying on expert issues. So next, please. So the value that we would add for Northfield Township is implementing some of the latest planning trends. Some of these items you may have heard about: form-based code, complete streets, and placemaking. But I'll just go through a couple of these with you just to show you some of the items that we work on. First, with form-based code, I want to emphasize the Lyon Township New Hudson area. To the left is an image from their visioning plan, which was adopted in 2009. The New Hudson area is south of the interchange of I-96 and Milford Road, and it's an old, a decades-old downtown area that's over several decades had seen some decline. And so the community wanted to revitalize the area. So we started with a vision plan, and in 2009 the vision plan was adopted. The purpose of the vision plan was to do just that, convey a vision of what they wanted their New Hudson downtown to look like and how they wanted to bring it back. It was followed up with a form-based code, and to the right is just the zoning map from the form-based code that took that vision plan and put it into action by codifying the downtown area based on the vision plan, not starting with how we want setbacks and uses and things like that. Those were secondary. We started first with the vision plan and defining the character that we wanted for that downtown, and then writing the codes to fit that vision rather than the other way around. And then I'll also emphasize that with that new form-based code, we have had applications that have been working their way through the process. So that code has been put into action, and over time, we're going to see the results of that vision plan come to fruition. Next is Kochville Township in Saginaw County. This is a project that Sarah Traxler had been working on. And we wanted to show this because in their sub-area plans with their master plan, what we wanted to do was convey graphically what we wanted. It's not enough just to put into text the things that we want in our master plan. It's vital that we have graphics. And on the top there, we're talking about mixed-use developments. And the top graphic is what we want. We show a picture of what we want. We want, this is for a downtown type of character, mixed use that we want, where we want commercial fronts at the street. We want pedestrian activity. We want residences either above the buildings or close behind so that we get a vibrant mixed use area. And below we wrote what we don't want. We didn't want big box stores that are not integrated with the other mix of uses in that development. And next, with the open space, the top is what we want, and that conveys an image of a natural feature that is existing, that's high quality, and something that's worth preserving. And at the bottom, what we don't want is we don't want open space referred to as whatever's left over from a development. After we create lots and we have these irregular areas of open space, that's not what we want for our open space areas. So in putting these images in the master plan, oftentimes a developer, when they propose a project, they'll read the zoning ordinance, sometimes they'll look at the master plan to see what it suggests, and when we put in those graphic images, we speak thousands of words at one time in terms of what kind of development we want to see in our township and what character we want to realize. And then the next segment is to go over some complete streets issues. Complete streets applies to a national movement, more of an international movement, for handling all users of the roadway. And as it applies to Michigan, the complete streets legislation in Michigan requires that when redesigning a street, we have to account for all users, all the way up to freight level and down to the pedestrian level. So this is a picture of a rural application of complete streets where to the left there you see there's an off-road pedestrian lane for bikes and walkers. Next, please. And then there's also some lesser approaches that are context sensitive. The one on the left, it's a seldom traveled road. There's street trees, so with slower traffic, it's a little safer to walk in the street. And the one to the right, it's an off-road lane. Not 100% ideal, but they are some approaches that are context sensitive, especially as it applies to rural areas where funds are limited. And then finally, Paul Lippens, our transportation expert, has been working with Monroe Township on the La Pleasance Road corridor. And what we did was we identified areas of the corridor that were both commercial and industrial and gave two approaches to two different areas of the corridor. So this is just to graphically illustrate looking at a sub area, and then when we got into the plan, we looked at cross sections of a road in terms of the development that we wanted to realize, taking into account the context sensitivity of commercial and industrial. So in terms of the leadership we would provide to Northfield Township, some of the best examples that we've provided for other communities is, number one, to show communities what they want, or show to the public what the community wants. And some examples are, in Kego Harbor, we help them to create a design guideline and pattern book, as well as a zoning checklist. Also, we've helped a Hamburg Township, located just to the northwest, with their incentive open space ordinance. The open space ordinance for Hamburg Township and the plan upon which it was based was prepared by McKenna Associates over 20 years ago, and it stood the test of time. In fact, the latest edition of Rural by Design by Randall Arendt, which is a long-standing book that's the guidebook on rural development and preservation. The most recent edition highlighted Hamburg Township's achievements with its ordinance and its open space preservation. What Hamburg does in terms of its approach is it allows bonuses for superior architecture as well as rural open space. So there are density bonuses that are granted based on that ordinance. But it has been right-sized to fit Hamburg's needs. Some of the featured extras, these are in the proposal, so I won't go through those in too much detail, but at no charge, what we would offer right off the bat is an in-township transition day at no charge. This would be an opportunity for us to meet with township staff and officials, for us to get to know you to get to know us, and then perhaps take a tour of the township of some of the vital areas where you're looking at future planning. We also send out newsletters and e-bulletins when we have email addresses and mailing addresses. We send those out. We would also include it in our retainer, draft your annual report as well as your annual planning program. We usually embed the annual planning program into the annual report so that it's one document we can look at where we were the last year and where we want to go in the next year to be one cohesive document. Throughout the process, we'll evaluate the zoning ordinance and identify areas in need of amendment. And also with our retainer at no additional charge, what we would do is we would review your master plan and give you an initial review in terms of some issues that we see with the master plan. So that would be included with the retainer. We would also do ongoing training in terms of monthly training, joint meetings to facilitate if you wanted to, as well as access to our library and videos. In conclusion, we are experienced in providing leadership in communities where redevelopment and planning is vital. Some of the approaches that we've taken in townships similar to Northfield Township, where we have managed projects, first in York Township, the Toyota Technical Center, you may have read recently where it broke ground. They have a development agreement that's about 10 years old, and they came in early in 2015 with a plan. It wasn't necessarily exactly the way the development agreement called for, but it met the letter of the development agreement, and that particular phase, in working with Toyota, did meet the ordinance, but it took a couple of plan reviews and some meetings to make that happen. But with working with an aggressive schedule that maintained the development agreement and met the ordinance and best planning practices, we were able to get them through the process and approved, so they were able to break ground on time. So it's under construction right now, and we expect that they'll be finishing up on schedule. Another item that we've worked with is with Van Buren Township, the Vistion GE Technical Center off of I-275. That's a project that we worked with Vistion in the township to come up with regulations and development to make that project a success. Next, in Lyon Township, we did mention the new Hudson form-based code, but we've also worked with I-96 development, specifically at the Milford Road interchange. There's a lot of new development there, and we've worked very hard with the community to identify the type of character and uses we want in that development. And over time, it's helped with traffic management and growth patterns. And finally, in Buena Vista Township, we are the project manager for the redevelopment of a mall. It was the Saginaw Mall, which had been abandoned. We went through the process with the community to have the mall demolished, have the site restored, and right now we're doing marketing efforts through the site to try to attract national retailers and different mixes of uses. But there has been some commercial development since then, so that project is ongoing, but a success nonetheless. So in conclusion, we are looking forward and would really like to be your township planner. We have a great firm and great planners that would be backing us up for any types of questions and expertise that the community would need. At McKenna Associates, we care very deeply about our work, and we work extremely hard at staying the best at what we do. So again, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Wayne.
I don't have too many questions, but I'd like to say it was refreshing to get you told us how much money it was. These other ones we had tonight didn't even put the price in there, so I want to tell you I appreciate that. I also read in here where you said you have 2 planning meetings a month, and if sometimes the planning commission calls one, they cancel it, and you got on here that they could put it in the bank and they could have that meeting some other time. No one else has told us that tonight, and hopefully, Patrick, you didn't do anything to the hotel over there, and where was where the 5 roads come together you were talking about? No, New Hudson. Hopefully you didn't do anything to the old hotel that was there.
I haven't seen any plans come across our desk, but I'll look into that.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, that thing's been there since I was
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. As a planning commissioner, I look at our planning firm to give us leadership. And so I would like to understand your definition of leadership and then an example when it comes to perspective of a site plan we're reviewing, motions, etc., the type of leadership you would give us.
Sure. Leadership, it can take several different forms, and a lot of times it depends on the community and finding out what the community desires, what the community would like. We are oftentimes a facilitator that will help bring people together, whether it's the public, whether it's other planning commissions, whether it's a segment of the population that we want to hear from. It's representing the township and the planning commission in trying to facilitate the outcomes that the community wants. And many times that takes the form of public engagement. For example, if you're working on a master plan and you want to know what the community's attitudes are about commercial development near an interchange versus downtown Whitmore Lake, what we would look to provide are visual examples of things that we might see in a traditional downtown or a hamlet, in other hamlets that we've worked in or downtowns, as well as successful interchange developments that we've worked with, like in Lyon Township, and hamlets like in Hamburg. We might give examples like that and look at some of the public participation techniques that have been successful and try to bring the public out in terms of what they want to see in terms of commercial development. In reviewing your master plan, the desire for commercial development in the community did actually score high, but what I couldn't tell was what kinds of commercial development and where. And those are types of things that we would really want to know. We would want to bring in the public, show visual examples of commercial development that's area appropriate, context appropriate, and see what their thoughts are, and really drill down the type of commercial development the community wants, so that we can lead from there and in trying to attract that development. In terms of specific projects, I will go back to the York Township Toyota Technical Center, where we were more involved in that than a typical site plan. Sometimes with a site plan, we'll have a site plan mailed to us, we'll review it, send it back. We knew with this particular one, there were deadlines that had to be met. There were several reviews that had to take place to make sure that we were fine-tuning it. So we were quick with our reviews. We had several phone conversations with Toyota, their landscape architect, their engineer, our township engineer, to make sure that we were heading into the Planning Commission meeting prepared and going in the right direction. And when it came to the Planning Commission relied on us to make a recommendation to make sure that everything in the plan was included, and if it wasn't, they had the correct conditions of approval. So in that case, what we did was we drafted the motions for the Planning Commission. They asked that we draft the motion based on our letter and recommendations, as well as the engineers. So we worked with the engineer. We drafted their motion for them, just to help them with the process, so that when they approved it, it wasn't just approval with the planner's condition. We spelled it out in the resolution for them. So it's a matter of sometimes communities do their own resolutions, sometimes they don't. But in the case of York Township, they asked if we could prepare them with a resolution, and we were very happy to do that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ken.
Thanks for coming tonight. One of the things that I've asked of all applicants happens to be, how do you stay in touch with what our community is? And obviously you've worked with communities very close to us and surrounding us in similar circumstances to us. What are the things that you believe would make you, uniquely qualified to serve as the planner for Northfield Township?
In keeping up with the attitudes of the community, a lot of times it's just having discussions with the Board of Trustees and planning commissioners, because a lot of times with, for example, the Board of Trustees, they'll hear from constituents and friends and people that they know or grew up knowing, where they'll talk to them about the community and they'll hear their attitudes. So it's keeping in touch with the board, keeping our ears open in terms of if there's any concerns to reach out. If any board members or planning commissioners have an opinion or want to discuss something, we keep ourselves available. So they may have ideas, and sometimes those ideas came from conversations that they have from people in the community. So oftentimes it's the township board and the planning commission that they live in the community. They're civically engaged with the community. So hearing from board members and planning commissioners is usually our first line, and other ways of learning about it is the community is at public meetings. Sometimes they're lightly attended, but sometimes if there's a proposal and there's a public notice sent out and neighbors come and discuss how it affects them, listen to those comments and see what parts are more substantive than others, and see what the general attitudes are of development. And then finally, when there's a process going on, like a master plan process or a sub-area plan or some comprehensive amendments to the zoning ordinance, we want to try to publicize those either through the website or Facebook or Twitter or the newspaper, whatever communication means work best for the township. And we would work with our graphic artists to try to get some presentation materials that might draw people in to come and give their opinion. And then finally, what qualifies us for the township planner is we represent several townships that are similar to Northfield Township. We work in lake communities. We work both rural, suburban communities, two adjacent communities, Lyon Township to the northeast, Hamburg Township to the northwest. And we've been in those communities for many, many years, and we've had a track record of success in both of those communities.
Well, you've answered pretty much my question about citizen involvement, and, you know, it seems like you're very much into that. But I have to ask this one because I've asked all the other ones. Have you or your company ever had a client of Biltmore or Grand Saqua?
I don't know. I don't know if we have.
Okay, so
I've
they're private developers, you know, so.
I've been with the firm for 3 years, and I know I've never worked on a project with any of with Biltmore or Grand Saqua.
Grand Saqua, okay.
The firm has been around for over 37 years, so there may have been a time in the past where they have, but I'll find that out, and I'll follow up and let you know
Okay.
what relationship we've had with those builders and developers, if any.
So, so the board's aware, the Planning Commission, Phil McKenna testified on behalf of the township in the Grand Saqua case.
On behalf of the township, our township?
He was one of our expert witnesses, right?
Okay, good. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm done.
You brought up a good fact about representing the local townships within our proximity. Is that a conflict of interest, possibly? You know, representing adjacent townships with their philosophies and their beliefs? I'm just asking your opinion. I don't have an
Right.
opinion either way.
We would evaluate different things on a case-by-case basis depending on what the issue was. For example, if there was a development proposed in one community that could potentially have a negative effect in another community, and we knew about it on behalf of, you know, Northfield Township or another township that we represent, our obligation would be to our client community. So as your township planner, I would bring that information to Northfield Township in terms of how it could negatively impact the township if it's an adjacent township, even if it's one that we represent. And it's important for us to disclose that, to be honest, but to also raise the issue that if there is a perceived conflict of interest, then we have to take the appropriate steps either to abstain from our participation or, you know, or some other role that would take away that conflict.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other questions? No? Well, I can't thank you enough, Patrick, for coming out so late and your presentation. Do appreciate it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And
Thank
before
you.
I leave, I have some materials that, some cut sheets that I'd like to hand out, as well as my business card, which
Absolutely.
has my
Yep.
cell phone on it for all clients, so they call me on my cell phone anytime, so we're accessible 24 hours a day.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
Can I just make a comment? I've been through the I-96 Milford area many, many times, and you can see the improvements there, so good job.
Thank you.
Okay.